Hello.
Hi, everybody. It's Nancy Reyes with For Your Canine.
And Joanne Soiki with For Better For Worse.
Oh, it caught me off guard this time. Hello. Hopefully, you guys are all out there. Let us know you're there. Tonight's topic is going to be about dog sports, what they are, and what are some of the dog sports available. And, a big question is hi, Tim, is why do them? And what's the purpose of doing them? And what's the benefit? So those are the kind of things that I'd like to chat about and kind of answer any questions if you guys might have anything about what sports the what you need to start in those sports and what you want to, what are the requirements for those particular sports. um and just and again, the benefits of why do them, why do dog sports. Because I'll be honest, when I opened my business 17 years ago, dog sports were not something I had in mind. I mean, we did agility and all that, but it wasn't like that was a top of mind for me when I opened. Um, and it became like this. What a lot of what we do is dog sports. Actually, the majority is what we do. So it's a very interesting shift. It didn't. It wasn't meant to be that shift, but here we are. As you go along, you discover more, and also there's also more dog sports now than there were back then. So that's the other thing that's unique or different. And actually today, Lisa and I did a workshop on adolescent dogs, and I'll be honest, that's what we started doing years ago, and it was nice to do that again because I hadn't been doing those in a very long time. So, hi Jodine, happy New Year to you. So anyway, it was fun. But dog sports do there's a reason we do dog sports and some of the benefits, and I think sometimes we lose sight of what those are and why we do them and what's out there too. Erin, is Crimson still sleeping? I know she's not, but she started having those heavy blink rates towards the end of the seminar. She's like, oh my god, this impulse control is so hard. So anyway, hi Allison. All right, so what are some of the reasons anybody would do um want to do a dog sport? What's the purpose? What's the point? Why do you do them? I know after a while it becomes about ribbons, but Charlotte is sound asleep. There's a lot of tired dogs from that workshop. A lot of 2.5 hours of impulse control is tough for a youngin. So uh, anyway, so one of the reasons we do, a lot of people think, oh, it's the ribbons. Well, and that's part of it, right? But mostly, and this is the interesting thing, I've lost dogs before I started dog sport, like they passed away, and it was very painful as well. But somehow doing a sport with your dog just builds a different connection with your dog, whatever that sport is. So anyway, it's one of those things. It's one of those things that you want to kind of think about. Yes, teenagers need guidance. You got that right, because they were naughty ones. Anyway, so dog sports, you do them to build the bond, to build the connection, and it's different connections depending on what your sport is. Yeah, Lisa, and yes, right. Anyway, so no, there's a couple of different sports. Many years ago, the first sport that kind of was around was competitive obedience, right? Basically, everybody compete. There's a pattern of behaviors and a chain of behaviors you want to do, and you go to the trial and you do those, and that was pretty much it for quite a long time, right, Joanne? Like,
Yeah, I mean, I know when I was up and coming, it was obedience and agility, right? Were the two. But
yeah. So competitive obedience, in case anybody is interested, it's basically you do some a, a, a- you do a pattern of healing, you do some behaviors, and you have to complete them, and then you're judged basically on.
Thank you, Tony.
I know her hair looks nice, right? Uh, and you do a series of behaviors, and you get scored on each of those exercises and behaviors, and you qualify or not, and that's how you get your CD. Um, right. We got hooked because it replaces sports. So that's one of those things that you wanted to. It's one of those. So that's one of the first ones. It's still around, but it's not as popular it's not as popular as it used to be, but it's still there. So that's one thing. So I don't know if anybody's how many people I know. Aaron does obedience, but I'm not sure if anybody else enjoys doing that. But that's been a controversial because back in the day, a lot of the training for that particular sport was done with a lot of adversals. Now it's a lot different. It's a little bit, you found just a few trainers that do a lot of positive training, and have done very well with positive reinforcement. Using positive reinforcement to do competitive obedience. So.
Yep, I know. I did some, and not to get too deep age and dynamics, right? But it was like we did some, and then we hit the real adolescence point. And we're like, yeah, we're gonna put that on hold for a little bit, right? Holding it together in environments that are very distracting was a little tough before he was 2.
Right. And Kim, you kind of hit a good point there. Not every dog is cut out for every sport. So I'm just so that's why it's always good to, like, when people come in and like, what sport should I try? I think you should try all of them, a session of all of them, and see which one you like and which one your dog likes. Because if you hate it, trust me, it's not going to go well. And if your dog hates it, it's not going to go well either. So it's always good to try and see and find where you're going to be more comfortable at, and see what they enjoy, and do it that way. And yeah, right. Kim, a couple of my min pins I tried obedience. They're like, yeah, not doing that. So it was pretty clear that wasn't happening.
Yeah. And I mean, to be competitive, none of the sports are truly easy, but trying to fit that square peg in a round hole, if you or the dog doesn't enjoy it, it makes it that much harder, right?
Right. And so yeah, it's one of those things. If you enjoy it and the dog seems to enjoy it, then you do what you can and have a good time doing it. That's why a lot of people do a lot of different sports. So competitive obedience, again, you do a behavior of a chain of behaviors, and you get points, and you have to pass that you have to do 3 trials to get your first title, and then you can go on from there, and things get more complex and more challenging, and the what you're asking your dog gets a little more challenging. So it's a lot of fun, and a lot of people really enjoy doing competitive obedience. And then and Tim brought it up, rally is another form of obedience, but it's a little bit more of like a mix of agility and obedience. So where you would complete a course doing a chain of behaviors or following signs. So that's they bought that about. You can talk to the dog, so more people can get into obedience. Unfortunately, it didn't kind of work out that way. I know the goal was to get people started. That was like a gateway drug to competitive obedience, and it not really worked out that way. So.
Well, so what at least AKC did was then they created some lower levels of obedience as well, so that people could kind of dip their toe in the water a little bit, maybe do some things on leash to start with, not go quite as far away from the dog. So those are the lower levels are really nice ways to get started. If you're interested in obedience, but you don't want to take the plunge right into the novice class.
Right. And I'm actually going to look for a video on rally obedience because so that you can get an idea what it is. It's not really so that you can get kind of an idea of what rally looks like. It's fun and easy. And well, it's not easy, but it's it's a lot more. I find it more enjoyable. Not that it's um, again, everybody likes their own. So here I got. So I'm going to pause. So just give you a very, very general idea of what it is for those of you who don't know what it is, because I know hopefully we have people who've never done. And yeah, Tim, it's pretty fun and pretty relaxing. So I'm going to share my screen and you can see. Um, so you can kind of just to get an idea of what it is. So you see the signs, the team does the signs and they are judged based on that performance. And these are the AKC championships for rally. And she was done. And then I'm going to show you another dog. And this one, you can talk to your dog as much as you want, and you would do, again, so it combines a little bit of agility and a little bit of obedience to get the dogs going, and it's a lot of fun. No recall on that one. It was okay. So basically, pretty simple, right? It's a lot of fun. You still have to train it to enjoy to do it. You can't just walk in and just hope to God that it's going to be a good thing. So it's been really fun, and it's great. Just something different you can enjoy with your dog, and it rally is timed. So that's mostly all the dog sports are timed. There's very few that aren't. So you're aware.
Kim has a good point, right? She said, I couldn't wrap my mind around the signs for rally. So, it is kind of a visual sport, right? And so, everyone learns differently. I remember, when we talk agility, a lot of the obedience rally, you get course maps, right? And I remember sitting next to people who would just study those maps and study them and know where and I was like, I'll walk the course and figure out what I'm doing. But, I learn by doing much better than I do on paper. And so the other thing too is I don't know how you learned originally, but I know like when we teach rally, and I'm sure Nancy, you do the same. We really focus on learning each sign and learning the picture that goes with each sign individually. We don't put things together at first, right? We really want people to understand what each sign means. And I don't think people practice rally a lot, right? Because I've been to many a trial and people are like, is that the sign where fill in the blank? And people are like, yeah, that's the one. So,
yeah,
right. It's kind of one of those, let's kind of hang out and run a course with our dog.
Right. So it's one of those. But it's a pretty fun sport. It's pretty enjoyable. Most people and dogs enjoy it. You get to talk to your dog. So that was just really, it's fun that way. Actually, my shepherd really enjoys rally, so he loves it. He thinks it's great, and it is a partnership thing. I think somebody mentioned that, where you and your dog are working together to complete a course. So it's a lot of fun that way. So and also gives it a little more structure for the dog. Yes, most points are lost. Yeah, most points and cues because they miss a sign or they don't read the course or whatever it is. So it's one of those things. So that's rally obedience and competitive obedience. Those are two, and those are hi John.
Hi John.
And those are two great fun, especially if you have a young dog. Rally is a great place to start, especially if you're planning on doing competitive obedience. It gets them used to the trial environment and all that stuff. That's because you need all the signs. Yeah, Jerry. So rally obedience, it's one of those. It's great for young dogs. It's great for dogs that maybe are retired from other sports, and it's just working together as a team to get through it. So it's a lot of fun, and a lot less pressure. I think somebody mentioned it was a lot more relaxing, and it is. It's a lot more relaxing than competitive obedience for me, anyway. I know there's some people who really enjoy the competitive obedience aspect. I don't, which is why we don't do it. I'm sure my dogs could do it, but I don't like the environment, so I don't do it.
And especially with the time factor, I think you're given a little more time in rally. So, talking about the dogs that should and shouldn't do sports, the other thing that you want to really watch out for in both rally and competitive obedience is, senior dogs are dogs with conformation issues, right? Because there's a lot of sits and downs in those sports. Okay. And if a dog is not put together well, right, through no fault of you, right, genetics are what they are. If a dog is not put together well, it's rare you're going to get that perfect sit, right? That perfect down, the quick stuff. Sometimes it's uncomfortable for dogs to put themselves into certain positions. So just be aware of that, especially as your dog ages, or just be aware of what their conformation is, how they're put together.
Yep. Also, if you are, yeah, I know. If you are going to look at obedience, your dogs, and this is for those of you who are just interested in learning more about dog sports, if you are just interested, your dog has to have some basic obedience and has to have some basic working knowledge of the different things like sit, stay, down, come, and heeling. They don't have to be perfect at it to start a rally class, but they have to have a working knowledge of it. You cannot just show up and sign up for a rally class without any other foundation classes. So that's important. Right? You
take a beginning obedience class first.
Yes, because we have people, I'd like to do that. We can start that. No, actually, you need to you need to have some basics, right? So those are things you need to be able to do rally and obedience, just some basic working knowledge. You'll get better as time goes on, but you will need at least a basic, your dog needs a basic working knowledge of those kind of things. Next is agility. That's kind of where I started. Agility is fast moving, lots of fun. The dogs get to do obstacles to be able to complete a course with their handler. So a couple things here before we show you a quick video. Did you find that video, Joanne?
I did, yeah.
So the first thing is your dog also has to have a basic working knowledge of some obedience. Contrary to popular belief, a lot of people think you can just start agility and have no obedience. Well, your dog has to be able to come to you when you call it, should be able to work with you and stay with you. And if they have no training to that end, they're not going to. The other thing, your dog should be physically able to do agility. So it should be in pretty physically good shape. Shouldn't have too many issues, meaning, some, should be relatively healthy, and it should have, and should be pretty fit.
Yes, and at a good weight.
And a good weight, super important.
Mm-hmm.
Really, it is very painful to watch people ask a very overweight dog to jump. And you should be able to do it too, right? You should be able to move as well, or at least teach some distance. But it is unfair to ask a very obese dog. It's like asking an obese person, like if you ask me to run a marathon, ain't gonna happen because I can't do that.
American Ninja Challenge.
Yeah, I am not fit enough to do that, right? And I'm overweight still. So it's one of those things that's like, yeah, not healthy. Yeah, and I remember Princess with agility, but she was healthy and physically fit in every other way, right? So yeah, your dog should be in pretty good physical condition. So like Ronnie's dog, she couldn't see out of one eye, but she was pretty fit and she was able to do that and manage that. So just be mindful of that. Just make sure that, if you want to sign up for agility, make sure the dog has the physical ability to do it too. Because if they don't, it's really unfair to ask, right? To ask a dog to do all that activity.
Yep. And the one other thing that I will say about agility, a lot of people start young dogs out in agility, right? And if it's your sport and you love it, fantastic. But you have to give some leeway to dogs when you're in such a high arousal environment. And let's be fair, there's dogs running, there's teeters banging, there's tunnels making noise when dogs are going through it, right? It can be very, very arousing, the dog can sort of lose their mind a little bit. So you really are going to want to make sure, like Nancy said, you have some of those basic obedience skills and you have the ability to get some focus from your dog in a distracting environment. Okay.
Right.
I know I had a dog, the last dog actually that I ran in agility. She was great in classes. And when we went to trials, she stressed up. So she ran way faster than she ever ran in class, right? And she lost some of her motor control a little bit too because she was stressed. But it looked like she was very excited, but it was stress presenting itself in another way, just because of everything that's going on and all the people and dogs.
Yep. And if you have a dog that has arousal issues, probably agility is not where I would start. I think you can get there, but you probably wouldn't start there.
Arousal and reactivity, right? Because you're going to struggle really hard to keep that dog's brain under control in an environment like that.
Right. So you can get there. It's just going to take you some time, right? That's the big thing.
And Jill, you're absolutely right. Don't start puppies too soon. I mean, geez, that's a whole nother Facebook Live, right? But until those dogs' growth plates close, you really don't want to do repetitive activities at all. You can damage a dog a lot by doing jumps at full height and things like that. There's a lot of foundational work you can do with a puppy, but the regular agility course is not it. So
right, and we do we definitely believe in doing a lot of foundation work with puppies because it's good physically, but yeah, competing and jumping full height is something you definitely want to wait on for sure.
Yeah.
Okay.
Oh, sorry.
So are you gonna
Yep.
share?
I will. Trying to pull it up before I hit the share button. That did not go so well. All right, hold on. All right.
So that's agility, right? So that's a pretty basic course, and just basically that's a good just idea of what agility is and what it looks like, right? And this is a trial. Again, classes usually break down all those exercises. Classes usually break down those exercises for you so that your dogs learn how to do that. But it looks a lot of times it looks so effortless that people try to get their dogs to run and jump and do all that stuff. There is training behind it. There is something that you have to do to get your dogs to do that. So a lot of training is involved. So all these dog sports that we're talking about today, dogs have to be able to it's a long time investment, right? You're going to have to go in there and you're going to train and you're going to go to classes and you're going to do all those kind of things. It's lots of training. It is not possible to go in there and go, okay, I've never done it. I've done a couple things and my dog does, and you can go in there and knock it out of the park. It doesn't work like that. So I just wanted to be clear. It's like bowling, right? Bowling leagues. It takes a lot of time to get really good and have a lot of strikes all the time and all that training takes time and money to be able to invest in doing that.
Yeah, right, Aaron. You're like, my dog loves to jump. You're like, yeah, well, there's a lot of jumps on the course, but it's a whole lot more than that. So, these three that we've talked about, obedience, rally, and agility, I mean, I would say it's a good year of training pretty much before you should enter a trial at a minimum, right?
Right.
So,
yeah.
And I will not, like, agility novice courses are not what they used to be. They used to be like a big S or a T, right? And now there's a lot more skill in there.
Right.
Than there ever used to be. So
I did agility many, many years ago. I haven't done agility in a long time. So I have to say, and I haven't done agility in 13-ish years, maybe 15. My parkour, is dog parkour an option? Yeah. But the thing is, I don't think, Tim, that parkour I think they do have a titling, but I think it's virtual if I'm not mistaken. I believe. And parkour, for those of you who don't know what it is, it's again, I don't know if it's a titling, not that it has to be, but it's good for there's parkour for people and parkour for uh dogs, right? So
It's like CrossFit meets obstacle course, sort of, right? It's kind of done in an urban environment. It can be, right, and it's a lot of tricks, but it's also a lot of agility type exercises, jumping and balancing, and I find it so interesting, though. Tim, you join us every week, and it's like, man, the differences in the areas of the country, right? It's like I have not heard of anyone doing parkour around here in a long time. So
yeah, no, this is a person and dog doing parkour. Uh See where the dog does right, the skateboard does a bunch of stuff. Well, the dog is like amazing, but um
must be part cattle dog.
yeah, well, so you see how it's climbing on narrow walls and things like that. So this is your and a lot of jumping and all that, and a more natural environment, jumping over stuff. So it's a really good and this is parkour for people because people also do it, right? Uh Anyway, so this is and they can do on benches and other things too. Uh and this is a lot of
Yeah, I think the abilities for like some of that advanced level parkour is farther than agility. I mean,
oh yeah, your
right,
dog really has to be fit.
balance and really be sticking to a task, and oof.
Yeah. So I don't know. We offered parkour at our place, but there was not much interest in it because um there was just not a lot of interest in it for whatever reason. And I think it's because here, especially in this part in our part of the world, we have a lot of sports that you can do. So it is nuts how much you can do with here. So this is part parkour, right? Dogs can climb up on stuff and jump over stuff. They have to be able to do so. See what I mean? So that is what parkour looks like, right? So it's pretty cool, but it does take a lot more training than agility. I'll tell you that.
Mm,
It takes quite a lot more than agility does. So, but it is definitely an option for sure for doing that. But I and it's virtual, right, Ronnie? Yeah, you can get a virtual title, so you can teach your dogs and then do a video and then submit it, and you get a title that way. So that's not a lot of on this part of the world, not a lot of interest. We tried, right? But the other thing we tried too was Triball. That was hurting balls. We tried it, and we had a couple of classes and a couple of people, and um, not a lot of interest with that either. So on that, so it was a very interesting kind of, uh, again, people like the other stuff, the nose work and the agility and the obedience and all that.
yeah, and I think that tribal is it's very interesting, but and it's for any dog can do it, but I think it's a lot of hurting people who don't have access to sheep, right?
Yes.
And so hopefully we'll get one of those scheduled. We have someone to talk about herding later. But that it's one of those sports, right? If you live in urban Chicago, you're going to be driving for a little while if you want to play that sport, right?
Yeah. So, and I have a quick video to show you how that looks. So hold on. It's not a great video, but I'm not as clear, but it's a pretty interesting dog sport. If you have a herding dog that you'd like to do some herding with, and like Joanne said, can't find some sheep. This was a nice alternative, but it really never took off like we would have wanted. So there's instead of sheep, they have balls they have to bring through. and bring it into the fence, and then go out and get the other ones and bring it around.
And so you can see the dogs going for the pink balls. So it's not any balls. They have to collect the certain balls.
Yeah. So that's a try ball, but again, not very. It didn't take off here very much. We had some problems with dogs wanting to destroy the balls, so that was so we had that situation going in. Yeah, it was really fun. We had a lot of fun doing it. So I taught a try ball class for quite a while, but we went through a lot of balls and a lot, and then just no competitions were really were available for us. Um, and then now we have. I want to talk about our scent work, scent uh, sports, right? So there's barn hunt, there's nose work, tracking,
Shed hunting.
shed hunting. So those are all where the dogs use their nose, right? The most popular, obviously, is barn hunt and nose work. Those are the ones we do the most of and see the most of, and have competitions on. So I have, let's see, I have one of our instructors. Hold on one second. One of our instructors, I'm going to show her video because it was on her Facebook page. So you guys can get, again, another idea of what that's involved, that you can kind of see if that's something you would be interested in. It's based on rat oops, no.
So Tim, what shed hunting? We're actually going to offer that as a Sunday night as well. The dogs. It's sort of similar to a hunt test, right? But there's antlers hidden in a wooded environment, and you have to send the dog out to hunt the shed, and they have to pick it up, deliver it back to hand.
Yeah. So the big thing there is your dog has to have a recall. All right. So this is a hold on.
Yep.
Let's see. I'm not sure why. Hold on, you guys. Hold on.
So it's easier. It's one more, but it's a little easier for him to make this decision. We only need one more. Now this right?
So that is Jill talking. Okay, so this is barn hunt. This is a class, so it's not. This is one of our instructors, Mary, but she's also taking a class as well. And this is just where she finds the rats. So the rats are in a tube, and the people then go and reinforce the dog. Again, this isn't a class; they reinforce the dog, and so then they go out and find another one. So one of the great things about barn hunt is the environment is pretty similar all the time, right? Pretty similar all the time. It looks the same. There's always hay. It's a certain size and all that, so it makes it easier for the dog. So, couple of things. I was one of those people that wasn't real crazy about barn hunt because I wasn't really crazy about putting a rat in a tube for the entertainment and sport of another. So, but our rats are very well trained. We train them to go in the tubes. They work if they want to. So under those conditions, I was okay to do it. But I wasn't really happy about, sacrificing one animal for another. So, and then we have Happy Ratters also. It's been around for about 4 years, and it's growing a lot in the East Coast. Here we are having a very difficult time getting it going, but we're trying. And it's like where you can set up like more urban type setup, where you can or the dog is still hunting rats in tube, but it's a more urban environment versus a straw, because all of us are getting a little older, and schlepping that straw is really rough. Yeah, and Tony, I did feel the rats. The rats were tough, right? But our rats are pretty happy, and they only work a certain amount, and they are very, very, very well kept. So they're better off than most people. So I'm a little more comfortable, and we work very hard to train them to get them comfortable in there, so they're not stressed. And if we notice one that's a little stressed, and usually stress shows itself in the rat's pooping a lot in the tube, or the rat is peeing a lot in the tube, then we know the rat's under a little bit of stress, right? So usually we check that every time to make sure that they're not doing that. And yeah, Earth Dog is another difficult sport, because you have to dig tunnels underground and all that. So it's not offered as much, right?
Right. And Tim, shed hunting's UKC. It's not handler discrimination. There is deer scent placed on those antlers. But another one of the scent sports that goes along with nose work, you're right, is handler discrimination, which is a handler scented glove or item. Yeah. And UKC and AKC have that. So that's another way you can play a scent sport with your dog.
Yeah. So that was barn hunt. That's pretty popular. We have done quite a bit of we do quite a bit of barn hunt in our place. It's something that we do quite often. So the shed hunting, let's see if I can find somebody, because it is an alternative, alternative to like, I don't have time to teach my bird to go get a bird. And she'll also crush it, which is the other problem. But or an antler's a little bit more easier to come up with and find. So it looks like the shed, which is the deers, lose their antlers, and the dogs go and retrieve the shed. But for a trial and for a competition, obviously the sheds are placed. And the dogs have to find it. Okay, so I am going to, because shed hunting is pretty big in Iowa, evidently. Because this is, so here I'll show you really quick. It's a quick video of your dog should be, if your dog should be able to retrieve, and your dog has to be very reliable off leash, because otherwise it's it's less fun that way. So this is a lab retrieving a shed, right? And of course the lab has an e-collar on it, which is awesome. And I'm being sarcastic just in case. So anyway, they find the shed, they pick it up, and they bring it back to their handler, right? And there is a setup of, yep, there you go, and it's retrieved to the handler, right? So again, no different than any other scent sport. So normally this, when the deer shed their horns, the dogs would retrieve the shed. However, for a trial in UKC, we have sheds, and they're scented, and we teach the dog to get them. So one of the big challenges and we are actually at For Your Canine, we're having a shed hunting workshop with Bonnie. One of the things that we have to do is you have to teach your dog to have a really good recall and a retrieve. So you must have those two things for shed hunting. Your dog, you have to have a reliable dog off leash. And if you don't, it's going to be tougher. You can do it, but it'll be tough. So yeah, we are having a shed hunting workshop just to introduce the dogs, and then we'll see about doing more of that as we go on. And so that's what shed hunting is. So and there's bugs and all that stuff out there, but I'm an indoor kind of girl for sure. All right, so shed hunting. Any questions on that one? That one's relatively new, relatively not as common and not as popular, because a few of you have already said that you've never heard of it, right? So this is a pretty good just
Yeah.
an intro to it.
And I think Tim said UKC is not really big on the East Coast, didn't he? So that might be
Yeah,
why, because it's a
that's
UKC sport.
right. And
So
UKC is pretty big here, right?
yeah.
Right.
So I mean, moving from shed hunting to hunting, right? Um, uh, we did a really lovely video back in 2020. So if anybody wants to scroll back through the videos that we did, we had Tom Aaron from Fetch Masters with us, and he basically went through kind of what's involved in getting your dog started in hunting. And AKC and UKC have field trials and hunt tests, and the dogs are split by pointers and retrievers and spaniels. So again, it's not one of those things. Pointers, you can potentially get them out there for a junior test, and it's really a lot of instinct. But retrievers, nope, you have to have some training on them before you send them out. They even at the junior hunt level, they still have to go out, make a retrieve, and deliver it to hand. And a lot of times there's water involved, so that's not just like, hey, we're gonna go and see how we do. So a hunt test is basically a setup test with planted birds. A field trial, a hunt test, you're basically competing against yourself, right? You're competing against a passing score for yourself, and it's judged on a couple of different things, pointing, style, just a bunch of different items. And field trials, you're competing against everyone else. So you'll go out with another person. So there's two dogs running the field at the same time, and basically you're just trying to find those birds. So those are, there is some available in the south of Chicago area and the Des Plaines area. I know, of course, there's some in Iowa. So again, though, you really kind of need access to birds, both live and dead, unfortunately, to train some of that.
Right. All right. The next is tracking, which we do not have good video of. Tracking is an AKC sport, and basically to get a TD, you only have to pass it once. However, it is a little bit challenging to to pass it. You have a certain number of turns on the track, and the dog has to stay on track. So you have track layers, which is the people that go out and lay the track for your dog, and then the dog has to find it. And there's a certain number of articles out there that your dog has to also let you know about. So those are kind of so tracking, and it's that's on leash, obviously, in a long line with a tracking harness and all that stuff. That's on track. I personally love tracking. I used to do it a lot with my beagle in my other lab, but since Nosework came along, I haven't been able to get back to doing that, but I personally absolutely love it. So it's one of those, the dog, just watching the dog naturally work it is great. So that's definitely something that if you're want to use help the dog use their nose, that's one way of doing it as well. Yeah, but I could not find good AKC tracking video on that at all. All right, because one of the things is with tracking, there's two ways of starting. There's Schutzen tracking and then regular AKC tracking. And the dogs have to be good with different terrain, and the dog has to enjoy using their nose. And there's two schools of thoughts. The Schutzen tracking, they track food, and there's lots of problems with that. There's some problems with that, and the other AKC tracking is a little different as well. The training is a little different, but it's usually pretty. Yeah, AKC tracking is different from IPO or Schutzen tracking. In IPO or Schutzen, old Schutzen, the dogs have to stay on the track. They cannot come off of it. Or in AKC tracking, they can come off and go back and get back on track as they go on. So yeah, it's a little different for sure. All right, that's another one of the scent type. And unfortunately, I'm sorry, we don't have a video of that. The other one is Canine Nosework, which a lot of us do. And there's a lot of different venues that we can use. So for those of you who don't know, your dog should be able to find a Q-tip with with a scent, Q-tip, 3 Q-tips with a scent on it, or it's an oil that the venues use, and your dog should be able to do it on three in 4 areas: containers, interiors, vehicles, and exteriors. So that's kind of how it works. I'll show you a quick little video.
Or buried if you do AKC, right?
Or
In a
buried if
box
you
with
do
sand or
AKC.
water.
Correct. Let's see. This is my dog. Pretty easy, nothing fancy. So in this search, she had 2 hides. And disregard the handler because, but it's just a basic idea. This is what a competition looks like. She'll go in. She is searching that particular. She has pants because she was in season, you guys. Just so you know, in case you're wondering. So she found the box. I call alert, and then they. And then they have distractors at this level. So there was one. And then I was done. I knew it was done. And that little hesitation at the other one was actually, food or toy or something that caught her attention, right? So that's the container one. Hold on one second. Then we'll look at really, really quickly at the poop. Let's see. And they have to do vehicles as well. So that's the other one. So I will really quickly do a quick share on that. Again, in this particular scenario, I knew how many hides there were. And there were 3 in this one. And it was very windy, as you can tell. So basically, so that's it, right? The it's hidden. You go in, you find, you do all 4. So the trick is you should complete all 4 things in one day and pass all of them to get your title. So you only have to do it once, but you have to be able to get it all done in one day. So that's that, right? With Canine Nose Work. Yeah, it was really fun actually. And the other thing is, so one of the things your dog should have some basic training. They also, one of the big things with Canine Nose Work is your dog should be pretty comfortable in different places, going to different places, different environments, and things like that. If your dog isn't, Nose Work will help him get better with that, but that's part of it, right? Your dog should be comfortable being in a different environment, in different places, and searching different places, different things, and it will. Canine Nose Work will help them get there, right? Will help give them that confidence, but that's something that you should, you're going to have at some point as you move up in level. And let's see what else. And one of the things about Canine Nose Work is it really helps you really connect with your dog because you have to be able to read your dog. In some of the other sports, I think somebody said, and I can't remember quite who said it and how they said it, but in the other sports, you are bringing the dog into your world, right? In Canine and Nose Work and scent work, any scent work, that you are going into their world. So it's a whole different take on it. So very, very different, which is the best part of Nose Work, right? Going into their world and seeing how they process their world. So anyway, that I think it was God, I can't remember who said that, but it was really. I was like, yeah, that's exactly right. That's exactly right.
Yeah, I
So
think it's the first sport out there, even of all the scenting sports, where we've realized they don't work how you think they work, right? Like tracking, you know, you laid the track, you don't want them to go too far off the track, so there's still that
right,
definitive line in the sand or grass. Where this, right? Sometimes they need to go far off, or go up a wall, or go outside of the cones, right, to source odor, and they're working how their nose needs to work. So it's
right.
very interesting.
So so that's and you know what, there's a lot more, like I said, like we were talking earlier, there's some, like, shed hunting isn't as popular, tracking isn't as popular either, and it doesn't mean they're not fun, great sports, it's just they're not as mainstream. And it's one of those things that if you'd like to do it, you should do it because you want to, and because it's something you want to do with your dog, right? And because you enjoy it, and not because that's what everybody else is doing, right? Some of those things, it's what it is. Some of the sports are get more popular quicker than others, but it doesn't mean that you shouldn't try and see what else you got. So that's that. So barn hunt. Again, those are all pretty mainstream ones. The other one, other sport that is very growing in popularity as well is dock diving. Limitations for that is finding a pool, finding competitions. They fill up very quickly because there's not a lot of people that have regulation pools. UKC and NADD both do dock diving. So
And
dock diving and AKC, who?
AKC.
What's the AKC does dock
No,
diving?
I lied. And NADD does AKC does it at the AKC Nationals. That's
Yeah, I
what
was like, what?
sorry, never mind.
I missed it. Anyway, so dock diving is pretty straightforward, right? It's dog runs, jump off the dock, and it's they have to get to a certain they run, and this is a challenge, it's not really a competition, but the dog, you usually have a 40 foot pool and a 40-foot deck, and you either can have somebody hold the dog, or if the dog has a stay, which mine does not, she's ridiculous and she'll jump in that. And so here, they're holding the dog, and then she'll throw a toy, and the dog should go in there and jump in the water. So ideally, your dog should like to swim and like water. If they don't, probably duck diving is not going to be the sport for you or for your dog. But it's one of the it's growing very, very quickly. And again, another thing, your dog should be pretty fit, right? Should be able to, and you could tell that's in a very warm place, which is awesome. But anyway, but that's what in a nutshell, that's what duck diving is. So
Yep.
it's a
And
pretty natural thing.
they have different games with duck diving as well. So if you saw the big black thing hanging on the top there,
You can go back.
as the dog right there. Oops, sorry. So there's a big black post there that's hanging above the water.
Yeah,
You can see
yeah,
it
there it
right.
is.
Yep, right up there. And there they have a high retrieve, an air retrieve, and basically the dog's got to jump high, retrieve the bumper that's hanging there, or whatever's hanging there, as they jump up and grab that and then hit the water. So
Right.
again, having a really fit dog is very important in this sport.
hmm And you definitely want a dog that's toy motivated, right? That's gonna go in after. So here's an interesting thing: my lab will totally jump in there jump in the water for a toy and go get it. But man, she doesn't have that great love of the toy without the water part. So it's a pretty interesting. It's a pretty interesting situation for her. Anyway, so that's in a nutshell dock diving. It's really fun for the really fun for the dogs and all that.
Oh, Jennifer, that's funny.
But the oh yeah. Well,
Lucky you had a small dog.
yeah. Well, Melanie and I went to a duck diving Was it Melanie? Yeah, I think it was Melanie. Anyway, we went to a dock diving competition, and I was like, oh my God, my dog didn't have, she was young at the time. She was 8, 9 months old. She didn't have a really good recall yet, and there was no fencing around the pool. I go, how am I going to?
Oh, that was me. We went to Wisconsin.
Yeah, but I went, yeah, and I went to, this was before that one. And it was not a problem. Jive jumped in the pool, got out, came back around, and came right back up there to get back up and get back in the pool. So it wasn't a problem. So your dog definitely has to really enjoy swimming and retrieving. It's easier. You can teach it, but it'd be tough, especially if your dog doesn't enjoy swimming. Getting him to jump in the water is tough, but that requires a little bit of training as well. And again, if you have access to a pool or whatever, it would be very helpful.
Yep, and slow is better. Slow is key. You may not get your dog off of that ramp the first time. You may not get your dog in the water the first time. Just take your time with it. I know with my Vizsla, he would do it, but he really didn't enjoy swimming as a youngster. And I took him back this fall to a pool, and I couldn't get him out. So much so we came down the stairs, shut the gate, and he jumped and teetered on the side of the pool because he was going to dive back in that way. So he had a really good time. It's funny how they can change things that they like.
Right. So the other sport that's really growing in popularity is fast cat, right? Which is a form of lure coursing, right? But fat cat.
Yep. So this is basically, it was designed originally for sight hounds. And if you guys want to, again, we had an entire hour on this sport. So if you're very interested in it, you can kind of scroll back through the videos and find that one. But it was designed for sight hounds that track down, rabbits and things that run very fast. So it is a pulley system that they usually tie shredded plastic bags to. Sometimes they'll actually have a toy on there that squeaks, which makes it that much crazier. But basically, when those lures take off, the dog chases.
Yep. And usually you have somebody who's releasing the dog and somebody who's catching the dog. And in this case, they don't have fencing around this one, but I don't think the dog's going anywhere. Just saying. So again, your dog should be in pretty good physical condition. And well, what a chatty judge. Oh my.
Yeah, now watch how hard this dog runs, guys. Okay, just watch how hard he's pushing himself. So unlike any of the other sports where they actually get some collection and turns, this is just a full out run.
Yep. And see him take a wipeout, right?
Because he couldn't even stop. He was running so fast. Okay. And so I know this is gaining popularity, and it is a super easy sport. You don't really need any training if your dog has some predatory chase with there and they want to go and chase the moving object. However, I can't tell you how many times I see somebody get a dog out of the car, go to the line and run their dog. Right. And I mean, that would be like, hey, put on your gym shoes. Let's go outside. We're going to do sprints. Right. And I'm asking you to run your absolute full out without letting you stretch or warm up your muscles. Okay. So it's a very easy trial to get into. It's super fun. The dogs really like it, but just think about that. And you don't have to do a whole lot of work, right? Just take your dog on a little walk. Let them move, get those muscles going before you're going to ask them to run full out.
Right. So that's one of the sports that doesn't require very much. Like, it requires physical fitness, but it doesn't require very much training. Like if your dog likes to chase stuff and all that, you can go in and do that right away, which is the problem, right? Dogs are getting injured and all that because people aren't taking their time to get them in good physical condition. So.
Yep. And that sport runs at different height levels. So it's all the same 100 yards. But yeah, if you're a smaller dog, you get a handicap. Okay. And basically they do a mathematical calculation based on the time down to miles per hour. and that's how they record your time.
Yeah.
So the next one that, you know, Aaron mentions cardio training. Fast cat that's nothing compared to lure coursing, right? And lure coursing in as a sport is strictly limited to sight hounds. However, they do coursing ability tests or cats, and those are meant for everyone. But that is 700 or 800 yards in a course. You can run a veteran course, which I believe is 600. But think about that. That's 8 football fields that your dog is chasing after that lure. So that one is really a test of cardio and endurance, especially if your dog's really trying to get that bag.
Mm-hmm. And I will give you a quick, I have dear friends and clients of mine that are in Georgia that have whippets and that have pharaoh hounds, and these are some of the and this is a lure course. I love my, but that's a lot of running.
Yes, and the sight hounds, like whippets, they do run together by breed.
Mm-hmm.
So they are being scored against each other. And at the very end of the day, they usually run a couple times a day. And at the very end of the day, they'll have a best in field, best in breed, best in field, all the dogs. So all the sight hounds really are being judged against each other at the end.
Yeah. So that's lure coursing. I have wonderful, lovely friends in Georgia that do a lot of it. They have one has a pharaoh hound and one has 2 whippets. So yes. So if you have a whippet that you would like to do this with, whippet should probably be very nice with other dogs, and most of them are, because they're bred to work together and run together. So you obviously wouldn't do that with a bunch of shepherds or a bunch of Dobermans, because that would be horrible. Anyway, so one of the benefits of doing dog sports is building a connection, spending time with your dog, right? And just doing a sport and hanging around like-minded people, which is a big part of it, and just really connecting with your dog and learning about it. And like anything, sometimes you're going to have a great day, sometimes you're not. But the other thing too is to really, it's your teammate. It's your teammate. Oh, IPO, yeah, because it's a game. That's a good point. It's a game. IPO is a lot of fun. I wish my dog would be more into it, because he's not. So yes, thank you, Tim, for bringing that up. I forgot about IPO. IPO, you see quite a lot of shepherds and Mallees and all that stuff, and it's protection type dog training. So I will show a quick video of this. This requires quite a lot of training, and unfortunately, some of it is old school. I know there's some good people that are teaching some really nice, some really good IPO, but I have not been able to find it where it's more positively. So they have to go around the blinds. There's an obedience part and a protection part. And again, your dog should be very, very fit. And the heeling and stuff is really, really far. It's pretty far. And the dog, you saw him slow down because he's looking for the bad guy or the person he's protecting. And so you see he slows and he checks it. But you see it's a lot of running. So the dog really, really has to be pretty fit to be able to do that.
And lots of obedience on this.
Yep.
Lots.
Mm-hmm. So there's a bad guy, and one of the hallmarks, because this is a game, right? The dog should ideally bark when they find the person, but not actually engage that person until given the command to do that. So this dog's pretty good. Has that hold until the handler gets there. So that's where I would have a little problem, because it would take me a little bit to get there. But I might need a ride to get there.
You got the gator coming down.
And then just the obedience and control. So one of the important things is your dog should be really obedient. And this is a game for the dogs, don't forget, right? This is a game for the dogs. And so you want to have a stable temperament with it, so you have a dog that's athletic and a pretty stable temperament, because really this is just a game for the dog, right?
Yep.
No, even if it looks, so there they get to, right? So you see how physical your dog has to be, pretty physically fit. And one of the things that is tough about IPO is that if you don't have a good helper, you can really hurt your dog. So that's the other issue, right? If you don't have a good decoy, the guy that's doing that, it looks so simple, but they can really ruin your dog. So if you have a good decoy, you can do this sport for the length of the dog. So, or the dog's life.
And I'm with Tim. I think my Doberman would be really, really good at this. However, he has some self-control issues. So that's the last thing in the world I want to do is teach him to bite a sleeve right now, right? Because he has a good out. We've worked on it. He's 4. He'll be 4 next month. And it's kind of late to start an IPO dog, but he really struggles with keeping it together, right? So that's the last thing I want to do is teach him to bite.
So for those of you who came to our workshop today, so talk about impulse control. That is all about that impulse control. And unfortunately, UKC had a lovely, lovely program that was similar to IPO, but for pet dogs. It was wonderful, but they got rid of it. It was so fun. We were working on it. It was great fun. But unfortunately now it's gone. But IPO is totally fun. If you have a dog that's scared or of people or whatever, your dog has to have a pretty decent, stable temperament to be able to do that work. And there was a couple of Jack Russells that did that work, so it was really cool to see. And they were really
Patty. They're swinging it at the dog, and sometimes they have like slapsticks, so it's like a bamboo stick that makes a loud clapping noise. Basically, they're trying to get the dog to let go without touching them, right? So they're threatening the dog with it.
Right. They're not actually hitting the dog with it.
No.
They're just
beat your dog with a rubber hose.
Yeah. Right. So it's one of those things. So this is so I don't know if Jen is still logged in, but this was the coolest thing I thought I've ever seen, was a Jack Russell doing IPO. It was the coolest, most funnest thing I ever saw, because it's like, that's when you know that it's truly a game for the dog, right?
Yep. And it is pretty intense, Patty. It's meant to be, right?
Yeah, very intense. So this is a little Jack Russell, right? But again,
let me bite him.
Of course they think it's funny because it's a little Jack Russell. If you've ever been bitten by a terrier, trust me when I tell you.
Not fun.
Not fun. A little bit of trouble with the impulse control, not surprising.
I can't do it.
Yeah. So any dog can do the sport, right? It's just very common that you have shepherds and this little guy is,
Yeah, for anyone who knows Shirley Tipsford, who's been around a really long time, she, I believe, has one of the, I don't know about now, but back in the day, she had one of the only IPO titled border collies. That's hilarious.
He's so carrying him. So, but I thought that was the coolest thing ever. I saw that. It's like any dog can do it. I know. I know. Daisy in her heyday could totally have done IPO.
We can bite people for fun.
Yeah. So anyway, I hope you guys enjoyed this little stroll through dog sports. if you guys haven't already aren't doing a dog sport, the best way. Somebody asked me today, what do you think I should do with my dog? I think try what you find fun, try what you find enjoyable, and see if your dog finds it as enjoyable, and then do that, right? Then do that. Don't do it because everybody else is doing it. Some dogs are meant to they're going to like one thing more than the other. So you're gonna, your dog will tell you if they like agility or nose work. Many dogs that I've done agility, once they do nose work, they like it better. It doesn't mean they're going to stop doing it. It just means that, it's just not their love. They're just like nose work better, which is, that's okay. Or some dogs do like agility better. So it depends on, what you want to do and how you want to spend your time and money. But I would try it if you're not sure, right?
Yeah. And just like how we always tell you, right? Most trainers, if you just say, hey, can I come observe a class? They'll be fine, right? I might want to do this with my dog. Can I see what it's all about? Come on over and see what we do, right?
Yeah. And we do that. At For Your Canine, we definitely offer, and that's why we do so many different workshops on different things, so you could try it and see what you think and see if you enjoy it. And if you do, then okay, maybe you'll sign up for a class or do run-throughs. And we definitely have an open door policy, right? You can come in and check any class you want out anytime. Because you could just show up and say, I want to watch a class. You can totally do that, because then that's how right? And that's how you can enjoy and you can figure out what your dog likes. And sometimes you think you might like it, but maybe your dog doesn't like it as much. So you'll have to figure that out. So Patty, how about Pippi? She'd totally bite somebody. Anyway, she's a killer, that one. Anyway, so hopefully you enjoyed it. Go out and play with your dogs and see and enjoy. It's part of the relationship building and just enjoying your time. Whether you do a little or a lot, doesn't matter, as long as you spend some time enjoying your dogs and having fun with them. Anyway, thank you all for tuning in, and we'll see you next 2 weeks.
Thanks, everybody.
All righty. Bye-bye.
Bye.